Hey there, this is Linda and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to set up for November 2024. The leaves have changed, it's all crisp and cool outside, and I'm excited to dive into planning for the cozy season. Let's go ahead and dive right in. I'm just going to start with a little bit of talking you through kind of how I do my setup each month before I dive in and put you guys on fast forward. In my monthly section, I am just setting it up, and you can see I need to finish my October still, but I am just setting it up by putting the name of the month there, and then I'm not doing any setup for the weekly. But on the dailies, I am setting up by doing my vision board. And this is something that's become such a fun practice this year. I'm going to continue this into 2025. It has added a lot of extra bulk in my Hobonichi Cousin, but I still love it so much. So I have a stack of magazines that arrived recently. I got the November Real Simple. I've got a Travel and Leisure, and then the November Better Homes and Gardens. And I'm going to use these primarily to work on my vision board, and I will also pull things from my stash that I've already cut out from other magazines. I probably won't need to go through more than just these few, but I will share that with you. And if you are interested in picking up similar subscriptions, I do have an affiliate link down below to magazine.com. That's where I get all of my magazines. It is so much cheaper than buying them at the grocery store checkout. For the entire year, it's about the same price as one magazine from the grocery store checkout, and they have really great deals. I believe I got the Travel and Leisure one. I think I paid $1 or something for the entire year because it was added on. And the same with the Better Homes and Garden. I think that one was added on to Real Simple. So you can definitely get some great deals if you want magazines from there. I did purchase my own magazines, but I do have an affiliate link so that I can get a commission if you sign up for a magazine as well. So I greatly would appreciate if you use that if you are interested. After my Hobonichi Cousin, which I think I might do that one first, I have my craft planner. So what I've been doing in here for my craft plans is just setting up my goals for the month and my product tracking. In October, I did not get to nearly as much as I thought I wanted to. I did do some project life, and of course I did my team projects. I have my foundation pages done for December daily, but I did not at all start on my travel album for Europe because I ended up taking a spontaneous road trip and I had just other stuff to work on this month. So I'm gonna have to think about whether I want to work on that in November or if I want to kind of put it aside and prioritize some other things. I'm really struggling with right now is I really need to redo my craft room. I'm outgrowing the current systems of organization. The decor is kind of a little all over the place because I brought some new pieces in without kind of coordinating things. I need to repaint my walls. So it just kind of feels like a little bit in limbo rather than comfortable. And that is definitely hindering my ability to craft effectively or comfortably because I'm always kind of distracted by I wouldn't say mess, but just not the disorder around me. So I'm thinking I might want to change directions and prioritize that. However, I do not want to be in the middle of repainting my walls during December daily. So I'm going to think about what that means for me when I set up my November plans. I also have my tracker where I track my products in and out. I did have more coming in so far in October, but hopefully I will make a couple more projects before the end of the month to update that. So I won't update my actual start numbers on my November trackers in this video, but you can see kind of that I have brought in more kits and more project life cards, especially cards and papers than I have used this year, which is fine. I also have not been working on cataloging my stamps this month. I was working a lot on it in September. I'm hoping to get back to it soon. However, I have been working on my cross stitch lately, so I haven't been as focused on my stamp organization. But I do have a fairly large stack of stamps that have not yet been cataloged because I've got 64 new stamps this year. So I want to maybe start putting a dent in that. So that's all I do to set up in here. The monthly sections are where I put my kind of what I have scheduled and posted on social media, but I don't really need to do anything to set these up. And otherwise I do other planning in here, but it's not on a monthly basis. Finally, my common planner. So I am struggling so much with this one as my everyday carry, but I am still determined to use it because I don't have an alternate until 2025, which I will share in my 2025 lineup video coming soon. In here though, I am doing my tracking, so I need to set up my tracking for November and like my trackers and my cleaning list. And then I've just been adding a tab. So I did do a little bit better in October. So what I've been doing is I've just been putting a dashboard page, and then I've been creating my own weeklies because the weeklies that are in here have not been working well for me. So what I've been doing is drawing that out and using it for dailies as needed. I've also used this for just like other sketching and just random notes. Here, like I created an editing schedule for my videos. I have like a Sunday reset list, some shops I want to check out. So just like random collections in between my weekly spreads. So I definitely will want to continue having this type of everyday carry. I need something like this, and I'm happy that I've been making this work a little bit for me in October. So what I'm going to do is just put my November tab in here and set up my dashboard, and that will be it for this one, plus actually my monthly calendars. So I was doing tracking on these earlier this year, but I stopped a couple months ago. But I just might add like some washi or something. So I think I'm actually going to start with this one because it's super quick and easy just to add a few things on here and create my dashboard. And then I will probably move on to my cousin, but we'll see. I will put the timestamps down below in the description if you don't want to necessarily watch all of the planners. If you're only here for one or two, that way you'll know where to skip to in the video. Okay, so the first one I'm going to work on is my common planner, and that's just because this one is super simple to set up. So like I said in my introduction, this is my functional planner. So I really try to keep my setups very simple because my goal with this planner is for it to be functional. And if I'm taking a really long time to set it up, I might not always have the time to set it up before I need it, and that makes it less functional. So you'll see this in my 2025 lineup as well, that my setup in my functional planner is going to be fairly simple. I do like to add a little bit of decor, so I added this washi tape. I got it from Jet Pens. It has some cute little owls, which felt like good November colors to me. I don't know why, but I don't think owls are particularly November-y, but the browns worked really well. And then I used a Tombow dual brush pen. This is one of my favorites right now. This is number 312, and it's kind of like a dusty blue green. And I used that to write November in kind of a wonky font and then outlined it. Next, I'm adding on my tab. So because these pages are undated, I don't add the tab until I actually get to the month. And that way I don't have to worry about how many pages I'm going to use each month. I can just keep adding pages as much as I need it. I'm also going to use my favorite stamps here to stamp out the year. I know obviously I don't need to add the year because that is already this whole planner, but I like adding it for a little bit of decor, and that wraps up that planner. Okay, so next I'm going to work on my Hobonichi Cousin. And this one is more time consuming and more just relaxing. So I put on a Law & Order SVU and pulled over some magazines and my scissors and got to work. So the first thing I'm doing here is actually not related to my planner itself, but because I'm kind of just resetting for the new month, I'm going through all of my magazine clippings that I have saved in my stash, cutting through ones, organizing them, and seeing where I kind of want them. I pulled one of those quotes aside because I do want to add that into my commonplace book. A few of these, I want to cut out those icons at some point. I did cut out a few right now, and then other ones are like these smaller images and things that I have saved to use as backgrounds. I'm just going through all of them and trying to decide what options I want to use for November. Some of these clearly are different seasons, so they wouldn't work for November, but I found a couple that I liked. So for creating a vision board, I like to always start with a background image. I pulled aside the 3 that I wanted to work with for November as options and put them to the side because now I'm going to work on cutting out of my albums. So while I am primarily focused on working on my vision board for November, that is not the only thing in my mind when I am working on cutting through a magazine. And that's purely because cutting through magazines is pretty time consuming. And if I went through it just looking for things for a particular purpose and I had to go through it again for another purpose, that would be very time consuming. So what I'm doing is cutting out things for the various places that I use magazine cutouts, which is not just my monthly vision board. I also use them on my monthly calendars to include little icons to represent each day. So you can see here I'm cutting out these little icons as potential things to use on my calendar spread. I also like to cut out words and phrases and other images that might work in my daily pages. So you'll see me cutting out some of those. I also cut out alphas. You can see I have my alpha organization system here, because whenever I come across a font that I really like that is a good size, I will cut it out and add it to my alpha organization. I also am always on the lookout for letters that are rarer. The one that I struggle to find the most is the letter J. And although I don't find a lot of like Q's and Z's and stuff, I don't use those that much, but J actually comes up a lot because although it is a very rare letter, it is in 3-month titles, June, July, and January. And so because I often use my letters to write out the months, I run out of J's. So anytime I see a J, I'm going to cut that out. But I'm also just cutting out various letters. You can see here, I'm just trimming out these ones that are super bold. When I'm selecting, I'm looking at what letters are included and what does the font look like? What is the size? What's the coloring? Will it look good to cut out? There's always so many A's and E's and S's. So if there's only like those basic letters, I usually won't cut it out unless I absolutely love the font, because I never run out of those letters and have plenty to choose from. Here is also a nice image that is a very winter theme one that I might see for a background for a vision board, or I might use it in the future for a journal page. Here again, I'm cutting out some alphas and just working on that. So most of the things I'm cutting out here are not actually for my vision board, but I do have that in mind as well. So for my vision board, I'm looking for images or words that kind of evoke my goals for November. So rather than setting monthly goals this year, I'm doing monthly vision boards, and it has worked out very well for me. I am a huge goal setter, and I do set monthly craft goals, which I will do later in this video, and I set out annual goals and just general goals at various points in time. But doing monthly goals didn't seem to work well for me last year. It became more of a chore to kind of write them out and think of them, and I never was really checking in with them because a month really isn't that long to change a huge habit or do some of my goals like redo my craft room. I'm not going to do that all in one month. So instead, I prefer to create annual goals and then track my progress and see that I'm actually working towards those goals rather than do monthly separate goals. Doing check-ins regularly works well for me. There I had considered cutting out that word caregivers, but I decided the font was too thin, that it wouldn't look great when working with it. Anyways, back to my vision board. So this is what I'm doing instead of goals this year. And what I'm doing is kind of trying to set the mood or the tone for the month. So for example, for November, I'm seeking a slower pace, a calmer month. I'm not traveling at all this month. I traveled last month. I'm traveling in December. I travel a lot for work, for fun. And it's something I really like to do, but it is very busy and tiring. So November, I plan to stay home. It's getting colder outside, so I have to get ready for the winter. I'm thinking of just ways to make my life easier. So I cut out the word easy dinners there with the thought that that is something that I kind of want in my month for November. I want some simplicity. I want ease. So I'm looking for words and phrases that kind of hint towards that while I'm cutting through these magazines. And that is going to be part of what I bring into my final spread. I'm going to go ahead and throw on some music while I finish cutting out these magazines, and I will pop back on when I have a bit more to say. Okay, so now that I'm done cutting things out of magazines, I am going through and organizing my words and cutouts here. So, like I said earlier in this video, this is not just working on my Hobonichi Cousin vision board, but also kind of just my monthly reset and organizing my cutouts here, kind of going through all of them. I'm putting the ones to the left there that are words or phrases that I might want to use on my vision board that I had previously cut out, in addition to the ones I cut out today. And then I'm just going to go through everything in my tray here just to organize it, make sure I still want to keep everything. Sometimes things kind of get out of order or put in the wrong spot. So I'm just going through them to organize them. This tray has this longer section and 3 smaller sections. I kind of wish it had a few more sections, but then it would take up more space. So some of these sections, especially the longer one, ends up being kind of just the spot where anything goes that doesn't fit in the smaller ones. But I also have a lot of Redbubble stickers in here, and I was just going through those to make sure that there weren't magazine clippings between them. And then in my the 3 sections, the bottom one are images cut out of magazines, primarily for use on my monthly spreads. The middle one are words and phrases, and then the top one are things that are mostly screenshots printed off the internet, so memes and that type of thing that I want to include in my journal pages. What I ended up doing after sorting through all of this is moving the smaller images that are not quite small enough to go on my monthly spreads over in with my cutouts or my printed memes and things, because those are really more for my daily pages. Now I'm working on my actual vision board. So I chose this image as my background. So I'm trimming it just so it's slightly smaller than the page, because if you go all the way to the edge of the page, it's likely to get like bunched up when you fold or turn the pages, especially with my journal being so chunky. Then I added some white washi tape just along the edge there to prevent the edge of that paper from getting caught on the page next to it when I turn the pages. And my next step is writing the word November. Last month, if you remember, I forgot to write the word October until the very end, and I didn't have enough space to do it with magazine cutouts, so I used alpha stickers instead, which I did like how it worked or how it looked at the end of the month, or at the end of the vision board, but it still was different aesthetic from what I've been going with this year, and I wanted to use my magazine cutouts. So I'm choosing magazine cutouts to write the words November. You can see I'm kind of selecting a similar color scheme of cooler colors because that goes with kind of the weather of this time of year. And I'm trying to make sure that the various letters kind of look good together, so I don't have 2 right next to each other that are the same or similar. And the entire word is just decent sized letters as well. I did it twice because one is going to be here on my vision board. You can see I'm gluing it down across the spread, kind of overlapping them sometimes and doing some like up and down so they're not perfectly straight across. The other ones are going to go on my monthly spread, so I'm going to flip to that in a second and adhere those ones down. And that's all I'm really going to do to set up my monthly spread, is just put the month here. These spreads I work on throughout the month. I don't do it daily because that would take way too much time. But probably about once or twice a week, I will sit down and add some magazine clippings, stickers, and various things to the monthly spread to designate what happened each day very loosely and just kind of having fun with it. Back to my vision board. So I have my background layer and I have my title, and now I'm going to work on adding in additional text. So this background layer is an image of a girl with coffee, a dog, cozy blankets, and a book, which is really kind of the sentiment that I'm going for this month. I want to read more. I want to relax more. I want to spend some time indoors. I just want a slower paced month. So I'm layering all of my words and phrases on top of it, but in a way that they don't cover too much of the image so you can still see what's going on. This first section here, I layered along where the girl is because I don't really need to see her chest, just her arms and stuff are fine. So I was able to add some words there. At the top, there's extra Wow. There's extra blankets there by her feet. So I put the words morning magic, and then I'm adhering some just like near the title on the dog's body and finding places for these words to fit. I was actually having some trouble with my rolling adhesive. I've used these rolling adhesives from Tombow for a very long time and I do like them, but for whatever reason, this one wasn't working. So I ended up having to throw away the cartridge and use a new one. It was just like not loading properly or something like that. And it was actually tearing a few of my words and phrases. So one of them I ended up having to throw in the trash because it did not work. Anyways, I decided to just add a few of these surrounding the page, and I wanted to get that one that said space on there. I've been trying to add that for a few months, but it's so big and bulky. I didn't have a good spot in the past, and that wrapped up that spread. Now I'm moving on to my craft planner. So this one is going to be pretty simple. I'm doing the same thing I do every month where I just put my plans on the left-hand side and my trackers on the right-hand side. I'm going to put a little bit of music on and then I will pop back on in a few to talk about my plans. Okay, so the first thing I did was write out my goals for the month. And then I'm going to move on to my trackers. But I wanted to talk through a bit about my goals this month for crafting because I did mention it in the beginning of the video. And I know that a lot of you struggle with setting your craft goals for the month and want some ideas. So I'm going to say kind of what my goals are and what worked for me. This is to say, not to say that I'm going to actually accomplish everything on this list, but this helps me kind of find a direction. And when I come into my craft room and I have, some hours to craft, I will look at this list to see where I want to work. I also, because I share a lot of my crafts on social media, do a social media calendar that I don't share with you guys here. And that does influence what I'm going to work on when, because often I want to work on the project that I'm going to share next. And I do plan a lot of that in advance because I have a lot of things to keep in mind, like various commitments to creative teams and brands I collaborate with, a schedule for when I can post things on YouTube based on when I will have time to edit them. I often have way more ideas for things I want to share and make than I have time for. I'm sure that a lot of us feel the same. So creating craft goals like this helps me narrow it down my focus and set a realistic expectation for what I could actually accomplish in the month. So at the top of my goals, I started with my project life because that is one of my priorities this year, and it's going to be in 2025 as well. I wrote out the weekly spreads that I hope to complete during this month. I might not get through the last few, but it's possible, so I wanted to put them on there. And then I also wanted to finish up the cover of my Part 2 2024 album and set up my 2025 album and do my cover spread for that because I do want to share that with you guys in December. Then I wrote out my team projects. These are my commitments that I'm definitely going to do. I am on the team for Allie Edwards and Coco Daisy. I'm going to continue with both of those in 2025. So expect to see more from me there. I also have various collaborations. So this month I'm doing a collaboration with Paint Vibe, which I will share more about soon. I'm super excited about it, and I hope you guys will be too. Then I wrote out my travel album, which I hope to work on, but I'm not entirely sure is going to actually happen this month. I wrote out that I want to sketch the format and I would like to select words and photos and ephemera. I would like to select and create my words, my photos, my ephemera, and then put the album together. So I broke it down in that format on my spread. And that's what I will use to kind of hopefully at least make some progress on this album. I also put a dot next to each one and I just put a letter, but that's for the cities. If you don't know, my travel album is for my summer vacation that I went on, and I went to 5 different cities. So I'm going to do a similar formula for each one. And so I have put like photos for each city, words for each city, ephemera for each city, and then putting the album together for each city. I don't expect to finish this in November. My goal is just to get started on the process. Then I have a section for other. I want to get started on my craft room redo. I don't want to have too much of it done or be in the middle of it during December daily, which is a super busy month for crafting, but I do want to at least get started on it. So I made a note of a few things that I want to do this month. I want to buy paint. I'm going to film an update. I am filming my craft room redo process, and it's going to be something that's kind of a slow process. So a lot of the videos are going to be taken far apart and then they'll come together on YouTube, hopefully early in next year. I also want to focus on setting up my 2025 planners and journals. In the past, I have struggled to have everything set up before January 1st, but my goal this year is to have everything perfectly ready to go, all of my pages set up, all of my collections set up before the year starts, so I don't feel behind. I have a couple of kits that I want to story plan, so I'm going to do that as well. And then I also made note of some traditional layouts that I would like to create. I did not actually write which layouts those are going to be, but I did make a spot to add some notes so I can add in some layouts in there when I do create them. Those will likely be story kit pages, and I don't have a specific kit I'm going to focus on, so that's why I didn't write the specific pages, but I do have some kits that are out in my rotation, so I will likely try to work with some of those. And then finally, I added a bullet for my journals and planners. On the right-hand side of my spread, I did my trackers, and I'm not going to share too much about that this month because I believe I've talked about that in some previous videos, but if you have any questions, you can always leave them below. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. And as always, I hope to see you guys all in the next one. Thanks. Bye.